Hey guys, it's Paradise and Dawn of War 4 is finally here. And from what I've played, it feels like the series is taking a step back towards its roots of Dawn of War 1 and 2, while still trying a few new ideas. After the community's mixed reaction to Dawn of War 3, which sits at just over 50% positive on Steam thanks to its controversial shift towards a more MOBA mix of RTS style gameplay, they seem to be listening. It's sadly not a full return to the exact formula of the very originals, and gosh, I wish we got another full-on proper RTS like Dawn of War 1, but instead it's definitely leaning closer to a mixture of different parts of the series which have become beloved. Now, I've been a massive Dawn of War fan since the early days, spending countless hours on the original, as well as the Winter Assault, Dark Crusade, and Soulstorm expansions. I loved the campaign and the multiplayer of the original, especially rushing early with scouts and a Space Marine squad, or just playing as Tau with a more defensive turtle-style approach. Meanwhile, Dawn of War 2 pulled me in for its story and co-op campaign, almost being more of an SRPG or XCOM-like game instead of an RTS. And I largely skipped Dawn of War 3 because the new flow of its gameplay just didn't really click for me. So the idea of a new Dawn of War that returns to base building, resource control, and larger strategic play instantly grabs my attention. Now, with the very recent drop of the definitive edition of Dawn of War 1, many people are loving going back to the roots of the series and that true old school RTS feel. The first is without a doubt, in my opinion, the best of the Dawn of War series, so I definitely recommend giving it a try if you want to experience it and haven't already. My only concern is that it's going to put the original gameplay of the first game that everyone really seems to love first and foremost in everyone's mind, when this Dawn of War 4 is doing things differently. Now, I got access to a pre-alpha build and could only try a single skirmish mission, and unfortunately I couldn't capture, so I will just be using the trailer that is available. In the mission I got to try, Imperial Guard forces were under attack by orcs, and as the Space Marines we had to step in and support them and wipe out the orc leader. It wasn't just a simple skirmish either. As the battle unfolded, different events changed the flow, and at one point Necrons suddenly invaded with a small army and a monolith, which made for an absolutely epic moment, catching me off guard. The mission wasn't just a skirmish because it had a clear narrative thread, but it also did have some classic RTS fundamentals. You would build up your base, capture and upgrade resource points, reinforce your squads, and work your way towards producing heavier units like Redemptor Dreadnoughts, Repulsors, and even Terminators. Resource gathering didn't happen inside your base though, instead it goes to other parts of the Dawn of War series and uses control points that are scattered across the map for both types of your resources, power and I think the other one was requisition. You would have to upgrade these points to boost your income and hold them against enemy counterattacks. So it made a bigger focus on map control. Now there's going to be 4 factions at launch which will have their own campaigns with overlapping stories, and there will be sections of it where it's told in fully animated 3D cutscenes. On top of the 4 factions, there's also Imperial Guard that you can play during the tutorial section. The Space Marines were what I got to play in the actual skirmish, and they have a smaller but more elite force that's expensive to field and to reinforce. So you have to rely on static defenses like tarantula turrets and hammerfall bunkers to protect your territory. You can also keep units in reserve for an extra cost and then drop pod or teleport them straight into a fight anywhere on the map, which was super satisfying to pull off. For the other factions, the Orcs are built around the opposite idea. They have huge numbers of expendable troops with buildings that double as defensive structures and the ability to build almost anywhere. Meanwhile, the Necrons are another elite army, but they bring monoliths that act as moving bases that can teleport across the battlefield. We didn't get to see much of the final faction, the Adeptus Mechanicus, in the preview, but I'm curious to see how their more tech-heavy identity will play out. There's also global abilities that are tied to a separate resource that you generate by holding points, with classics like the Orbital Strike making a return. And of course, it's as devastating as ever, easily wiping out clusters of units if timed well, but its high cost means you can't just spam it without planning, and it does have friendly fire, which my Assault Intercessors and Blade Guard veterans quickly found out and got completely wiped. One thing that really gives me confidence in this project though is the fact that it's being developed by the same team behind Iron Harvest. If you've played that game, you'll know it had some of the most satisfying base building, unit control, and tactical combat in a modern RTS. And this was all wrapped in a very polished presentation which just further helped it. We played and loved Iron Harvest when it came out, and perhaps what impressed me most is how it respected the pacing and strategic depth of classic RTS games while still feeling fluid and cinematic. So I think this is exactly what Dawn of War needs. Iron Harvest also nailed things like its faction asymmetry, where each side felt really unique and it wasn't afraid to slow the game down a little, so you really had to think about positioning, timing, and combined arms tactics. It kind of brings to mind how Dawn of War 2 handled things. Well, seeing that the same team is now making a Dawn of War game is reassuring because they've already proven that they understand how to make an RTS feel modern and authentic without losing the fundamentals. Well, if they can bring that same level of attention to detail here, especially with the Warhammer 40k setting and the scale of battles that the series is known for, it could be something special. Even though the build I played was a very early version, there was even some placeholder assets, and the performance did dip every now and then, the unit visuals were already looking fantastic. The environments were a bit simpler, but that kind of thing I expect to be more polished towards the end of the development cycle alongside optimization. The overall feel really struck me as a blend between Dawn of War 1 and 2. Some of the base building and resource play of the original, with some more of the intimate, squad-focused mechanics of the sequel. Now this already puts it in a much stronger position than Dawn of War 3, at least in my opinion, which a lot of players did feel like it lacked a clear identity by removing or watering down elements that they loved from the earlier games. In what I got to play, reinforcing units mid-battle is back, which is a great way to keep your veteran squads alive at the cost of resources, and the melee combat has been given a lot of attention. They said there's over 10,000 animation permutations so that units actually interact with each other when fighting to clash and dodge and strike each other rather than just swinging at the air. This works when multiple squads are in a melee brawl, and the tactical feel is something that fans have been asking for, and it makes zooming in on those fights really satisfying. There's also some quality of life touches in there as well. You're now able to hold right-click and drag to select an area to attack instead of micromanaging individual attacks or doing an attack move order. Units still gain experience and rank up as they survive battles, unlocking additional upgrades, alternative weapons, and new abilities that you can pick and upgrade to tailor to the matchup at hand. Some units also have active abilities you can trigger manually, like throwing grenades, overcharging your plasma weapons, or launching rocket barrages from dreadnoughts. The base structures themselves also have upgrades that grant passive bonuses, unlock higher tier units, or bolster their defenses, and resource points can be fortified so they're not just free pickings for the enemy to come and take. Visually, the special effect for things like flamethrowers and explosions already have a lot of punch in them too. This early preview left me feeling surprisingly optimistic, even though this early build was a bit rough around the edges. It's got a long way to go before release, but Dawn of War 4 is shaping up to be a smart blend of what made the first two games special, with just enough modern design to keep it fresh. I just really hope they lean more into Dawn of War 1's aspects than 2's or 3's. After Dawn of War 3's reception, there's clearly been an effort to listen to the community, and that's exactly the balance I was hoping for. If they can polish the visuals, nail the campaigns, and keep the factions feeling distinct, and again lean more into Dawn of War 1, this could be the comeback that us fans have been waiting for. I really wish I could have played more and got a better grip of things, but that's all we got to try for now. But we will be coming back to update you with more Dawn of War 4 news as and when it drops, so make sure you're subscribed down below. Here at Arix Gaming, we're two friends who love to play games. You have me, Paradise, as well as 26.
Our goal is to keep the videos as concise as possible by cutting out any of the fluff and focusing on what really matters with high quality videos.
So make sure you're subscribed down below for more videos on your favorite games coming very, very soon.